The electricity hit me like a giant's fist, and everything went white. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how an angry teenager from Tehran learned that prayer might be the only thing standing between us and the end of the world. Before we continue, please let me know where you're listening from. It would be nice to feel closer, even if we're physically apart. Also, don't forget to like. It will help this video to reach so many people who need to listen to this testimony, and leave a comment. Share your thoughts about this near-death experience testimony. Let's have a fair and open discussion so we can learn from each other here on this channel, and don't forget to subscribe for more of this content coming your way. Enjoy listening. My name is Reza, and I was 17 when I died. Before that day, I hated everything about religion, especially God. Growing up in Iran, you can't escape religion, it's everywhere. In every rule, every law, every breath you take. But all I saw was pain. My father worked 3 jobs just to buy bread. My little sister Maryam was sick all the time because we couldn't afford good medicine. My mother cried herself to sleep most nights, thinking we couldn't hear her. The government took more and more from us while the rich got richer, and they did it all in God's name. Where is this loving God? I would ask my grandmother, the only religious person I respected. She would just smile and say, "He's working, my boy. You'll see." I thought she was crazy. Our neighborhood was full of broken dreams. My friend Hassan's dad was in prison for speaking against the government. My neighbor's shop got shut down because he couldn't pay the bribes. Everywhere I looked, good people suffered while bad people lived like kings. If God is real and good, I would think, why doesn't he do something? March 15th started like any other day, except the anger in the streets felt thicker, like smoke you could cut with a knife. People were whispering about another protest, another chance to scream at the sky and hope someone would listen. I didn't go to protests to change the world. I went because I was angry, and anger needs somewhere to go. That day, the anger felt bigger than usual, like a fire in my chest that wanted to burn everything down. The crowd gathered near the university. Young people like me, old people who remembered better days, mothers holding pictures of sons who had disappeared. We all had the same look in our eyes, the look of people who had nothing left to lose. The police came with their shields and sticks. Someone threw a rock. Someone else threw a bottle. Then everyone was running and screaming and pushing. I found myself pressed against a metal fence, trying to climb over it to escape the chaos. My hands grabbed the wire, and that's when I saw it. The cable that had fallen from a power line above, sparking and dancing like an angry snake. My hand touched it before my brain could tell me to stop. The world exploded into white light and burning pain. Then everything went black. When I opened my eyes, I was sitting in my grandmother's old kitchen. But that was impossible. She had died 2 years ago, and her house had been torn down to build apartments. Everything looked exactly like I remembered. The blue tiles on the wall, the smell of jasmine tea, the wooden table where she used to tell me stories, even the crack in the window that looked like a lightning bolt. But I wasn't alone. A man sat across from me at the table. Pouring tea like this was the most normal thing in the world. He looked Middle Eastern like me, with kind eyes and hands that seemed to have built things. His clothes were simple, like a carpenter or a fisherman might wear. "Hello, Reza," he said, and his voice made me feel calm and terrified at the same time. I knew who he was before he told me. Don't ask me how, I just knew. "You're Jesus," I said. He nodded and pushed a cup of tea toward me. "Your grandmother always made good tea." All the anger I had been carrying for years exploded out of me like water from a broken dam. "Where were you?" I shouted, jumping up from the table. "Where were you when my sister was sick? Where were you when my father worked himself to death? Where were you when Hassan's dad got arrested for telling the truth?" Jesus didn't flinch. He just sat there watching me with those calm eyes. "Where were you when children died in wars? Where were you when evil men got rich off poor people suffering? If you're real, if you're good, why don't you do something?" I was crying now, tears of rage and pain that I had been holding back for years. Jesus was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I gave people choices, Reza. Real choices. That includes the choice to hurt each other." "That's not good enough," I yelled. "You could stop it." "I could," he said softly. "But then people wouldn't be people anymore. They would be puppets. And puppets can't love." He stood up and walked to the window. "Come here. Let me show you something." Suddenly we weren't in the kitchen anymore. We were floating high above the earth, looking down at cities that sparkled like jewels in the darkness. "Look closer," Jesus said. My vision changed, like someone had given me magic glasses. Now I could see things that weren't normally visible. Around important buildings, government offices, military bases, big banks, I saw dark shapes moving like shadows. "What are those?" I asked. "Demons," Jesus said simply. "Evil spirits that whisper in people's ears, making bad ideas seem good." I watched as these shadow creatures surrounded world leaders, whispering in their ears during meetings. The leaders' faces would change, becoming harder, more angry, more afraid. "They feed on fear and hatred," Jesus explained. "They make people think their neighbors are their enemies. They make leaders think war is the only answer to problems." I saw how it worked. A demon would whisper to a leader in one country, "They're planning to attack you." Then another demon would whisper to a leader in another country, "You need to strike first before they do." Fear created more fear. Hatred created more hatred. And the demons grew stronger. "Watch this," Jesus said, and his voice was full of sadness. We zoomed in on a room where important men in suits were arguing around a big table. The shadow creatures were thick around them, whispering constantly. One man slammed his hand on the table. "We have no choice," he shouted. "If we don't strike first, they'll destroy us." Another man nodded. "The nuclear option is our only hope." I watched in horror as they signed papers and made phone calls. Within minutes, missiles were being prepared in secret places around the world. "Is this real?" I asked Jesus. "Is this happening now?" "This is what will happen if nothing changes," he said. Then I saw the most terrible thing I've ever seen. The missiles launched. Cities I recognized: New York, London, Tehran, Moscow. Beijing disappeared in flashes of light brighter than the sun. Millions of people, mothers, fathers, children, grandparents, gone in seconds. "Stop it," I screamed. "Make it stop." "I cannot," Jesus said. "Not alone. This is why I brought you here." "But there's something else you need to see," Jesus said. The terrible vision disappeared, and we were looking at Earth again. But this time I saw something different. In houses and churches and mosques and synagogues around the world, people were kneeling and praying. As they prayed, light came out of them, beautiful, pure light that pushed back the darkness. "Watch the demons," Jesus said. Where the light touched them, the shadow creatures fled like cockroaches when you turn on a lamp. The whispers in the leaders' ears stopped. The fear and hatred began to fade. "Prayer is warfare," Jesus explained. "Real warfare. When people pray together, really pray with their whole hearts, it changes things in the spirit world. And when things change in the spirit world, they change in the physical world too." I watched as Christians, Muslims, and Jews prayed for peace. I watched as mothers prayed for their children's future. I watched as ordinary people like my grandmother prayed for leaders they would never meet. Each prayer was like a sword of light, cutting through the darkness. "There are other things that defeat darkness," Jesus said, showing me more visions. I saw a woman forgiving the man who had killed her son. As she spoke the words, "I forgive you," light exploded from her like a bomb, and demons scattered in terror. I saw families going without food for a day, using that time to pray instead. Each time they chose prayer over food, their light grew brighter. I saw people choosing to love their enemies instead of hating them. Each act of love was like throwing holy water on the demons. They screamed and ran away. The demons understand power, Jesus said, but they cannot understand forgiveness, sacrifice, and love. These things are poison to them. I don't understand, I said. Why are you showing me this?
I'm nobody.
I don't even believe in you, or I didn't until now. Jesus smiled. That's exactly why I chose you, Reza. Religious people sometimes get so caught up in being right that they forget to work together. But you just want the suffering to stop. He put his hand on my shoulder. I need someone who can talk to Christians and Muslims and Jews. Someone who can say, I don't care about your religious differences. I care about keeping your children alive. You want me to get people to pray together? I want you to get people to understand that they're fighting the same enemy. The demons don't care if you're Christian or Muslim or Jewish. They just want to destroy everyone. So believers need to pray together, not separately. The next thing I knew, I was lying on a hospital bed with doctors and nurses rushing around me. Machines were beeping, and someone was shouting orders. He's back, a nurse yelled. We have a heartbeat. My mother was crying in the corner. My father was holding my hand so tight it hurt. They told me later that I had been dead for 31 minutes. No heartbeat, no brain activity, nothing. The doctors had been ready to give up. What happened to you? My mother asked through her tears. I wanted to tell her about Jesus, about the visions, about the nuclear war that was coming. But who would believe a story like that? I was just a teenager who had gotten electrocuted during a protest. I had a dream, I said. It was the truth, even if it wasn't the whole truth. But it wasn't just a dream. Over the next few weeks, I started having more visions while I slept. I would see government meetings before they happened. I would see decisions being made in secret rooms around the world. Then I would watch the news and see those same decisions announced days later. It was terrifying and amazing at the same time. Jesus had given me a window into tomorrow, and tomorrow looked very dark unless something changed. I started praying, something I had never done before in my life. Not the formal prayers they taught in school, but real talking to God. I would tell him about my fears, my hopes, my confusion about everything I had seen. And slowly I started reaching out to others. I began with my grandmother's friends at the mosque. Then I found some Christians who met secretly in homes. Eventually, I even met some Jewish people who were hiding their faith. At first, they didn't trust each other. Muslims thought Christians were wrong about Jesus. Christians thought Muslims were enemies. Everyone was suspicious of everyone. But when I told them about the visions, about the demons that wanted to destroy all of them equally, something changed. Look, I would say, maybe you disagree about theology, but do you want your children to die in a nuclear war? Because that's what's coming if we don't work together. Slowly, very slowly, small groups started forming. Christians and Muslims praying together for peace. Jews and Muslims asking God to protect their families. People putting aside their differences because they loved their children more than they loved being right. 6 months after I died and came back, I had the most important vision of all. I saw the same room, the same leaders, the same discussion about nuclear war. But this time, something was different. One of the men at the table suddenly stopped talking. He looked confused, like he was hearing something no one else could hear. Wait, he said. Maybe there's another way. Another man nodded. Yes, let's try diplomacy first. The demons around them were weaker now, less solid. The whispers of fear and hatred were being drowned out by something else. The prayers of thousands of people around the world. The nuclear strike was canceled. The world didn't end that day, and I knew that prayer had made the difference. I'm not the same angry teenager I was before I died. I'm still angry, but now I use that anger differently. Instead of hating God, I use my anger to pray against the real enemies, the demons that want to destroy peace. I spend my time now building bridges between people of different faiths, not to make them all believe the same thing, but to help them pray together for the same goals. Peace, protection for children, and hope for the future. Some people think I'm crazy. Some religious leaders don't like that I work with people from other faiths. But I remember what Jesus told me. The demons don't care about religious labels. They just want to destroy everything good. Every day I see small miracles. I see people choosing forgiveness instead of revenge. I see communities coming together instead of falling apart. I see leaders making wise decisions instead of foolish ones. And in the spirit world, I see the darkness getting weaker. It's not happening fast enough. There's still too much hatred, too much fear, too much pride. But it's happening. Prayer by prayer, choice by choice, the light is growing stronger. This is why I'm telling you my story. Not because I want you to change your religion or believe everything I believe. I'm telling you because I've seen what's coming if we don't work together. I've seen the nuclear fires. I've seen the millions of dead. I've seen children who will never grow up and parents who will never see their babies again. But I've also seen how prayer can change everything. I've seen how unity can defeat the darkest plans. I've seen how ordinary people can save the world just by talking to God together. You don't have to believe my whole story. You don't have to believe that I died and met Jesus. But please believe this, we are stronger together than apart. The God of Abraham, whether you call him Allah or Yahweh or Jesus, that God hears all sincere prayers. And when people pray together for peace, really pray with their whole hearts, miracles happen. The demons want us divided. They want Christians fighting Muslims, Muslims fighting Jews, everyone afraid of everyone else. Because when we're fighting each other, we're not fighting them. But what if we stopped playing their game? What if we started praying together instead of arguing about our differences? What if we used our faith to build bridges instead of walls? I'm asking you to join me in prayer. Not my prayers, not Christian prayers or Muslim prayers or Jewish prayers, but human prayers, parent prayers, child prayers, prayers for peace and hope and a future where children can grow up without fear. Find others who believe in the same God you do, even if they worship him differently. Pray together for world leaders to make wise choices. Pray for peace between nations. Pray for protection from those who would destroy innocent lives. And forgive. Forgive those who have hurt you. Forgive nations that have hurt your nation. Forgive religions that have hurt your religion. Because forgiveness is like poison to demons, and we need all the spiritual poison we can get. I still have visions. I still see the meetings, the decisions, the spiritual warfare happening in places most people can't see. And I can tell you that time is running short. The demons are getting desperate. They know that more and more people are waking up to the truth, and they're pushing harder than ever for war, for hatred, for the final destruction they've always wanted. But I also see the light growing. I see people of different faiths holding hands and praying together. I see children growing up without the hatred their parents carried. I see hope winning over fear, one prayer at a time. The future isn't written in stone. What I saw was what will happen if nothing changes. But things can change. They are changing. Every time someone chooses prayer over hatred, every time someone chooses forgiveness over revenge, every time someone builds a bridge instead of a wall, the future gets a little brighter. Will you put aside your religious pride and pray with people who worship differently than you do? Will you choose hope over fear? Will you help save the world one prayer at a time? The choice is yours. The time is now. And tomorrow depends on what we decide today. Before you go, please like this video and share to your loved ones. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more of this testimonies coming your way. God bless you.